it's women who do elderly care, women who do child care, women who do all the chores of the household, which is water, sanitation, all the cooking, all the cleaning. And unless we decide what to do with care, we cannot think about women being very active or leading in the economy. And then, of course, there's a whole care economy developing, where women again are more or less at the base and they raise more in the care economy. So what we are going to be talking about is the women in the economy. How do we change their positions? How do we empower and help them lead?
Having gender-friendly technology inclusions that are possible. And this, I think, is something where course correction is needed. The emphasis on literacy, the emphasis on we turning out to be graduates, I think that era for education is almost over. We are seeing that technology is setting its new benchmarks that are important.
After a decade, 2 decades of research, there are some things we know well. There's really no debate to be had that when women secure more economic power, they drive broader and more sustained economic growth. And they and their families lead healthier, more productive lives as a result. We know this. Some top-line numbers. The ILO suggests that closing the gender gap in participation by just 25%, just a quarter, by 2025 could increase global GDP by $5.3 trillion.
Beginning of the collaboration of ADB Institute with SEWA Bharat, building on the close collaboration between T20 India, headed by Ambassador Chinoy, and T7 Japan, which ADB Institute is hosting. I hope that the SEWA ADB Institute collaboration will contribute to promoting and enabling gender equality in India, other parts of the region, and beyond.
In traditional Indian society, women had a degree of control over the finances at home, but even there they were not entirely independent, since the flow of resources into their hands was often controlled by others in a patriarchal environment. Women in India have traditionally been at the center of family life for thousands of years. Yet, as others have pointed out, that role has been restricted in the past, for the vast majority, restricted to either the informal economy or to the household or to a few stereotyped vocations and professions.
So agriculture is still employing about 75% of women in rural India. And here, as I said earlier, one needs to differentiate between work and employment. There's a lot of hidden work that women do, and I think SEWA did this great report in Bihar to show that if you actually count the kind of informal work that women do, weeding, milling, taking care of the livestock, curing the fish, all of that, then the statistics would be as high as 80% of the labor force. So are we distinguishing between work and employment, and should work, even if it's unpaid, be counted as employment? More women work as farm laborers clearly than owners. That's mostly because they don't own land, as Beena Agarwal and others have been writing about, and therefore they have issues about accessing credit as well. But this graph from Farzana Afridi's paper is quite interesting. What it shows is that towards the 2000s, the upper graph is that female labor is the dashed line. It completely went down. This is the real labor that goes into the weeding, the milling, the harvesting. It really went down. If you see the graph below, it's just the opposite. This is farm mechanization, and we don't talk enough about farm mechanization actually displacing women.
Why women should be in the boardroom, why women should be in the government, why women should be in the corporate world, why women must earn money in the agriculture, why women must earn money for care. These are all macroeconomic ingredients for our economy to be on the top of their possible growth.
In the fact that gig work and platform work is touted, is encouraged as this huge opportunity to increase female labor force participation, in that is the idea that women need flexible work, right? Almost every woman in this room and all the women that we talk to and interview will also tell you that they prefer flexible work.
आमतौर पे जब आप दुकान लगाते हो तो गल्ले में पैसा आता है तो आप उसे घर में खर्च कर देते हो कि कैश आया और कभी बच्चों को दे दिया, कभी बिजली का बिल भर दिया, वो मेरे पास बचा नहीं। लेकिन जब मैंने वो व्हाट्सएप पे लगाया और उन लोगों ने मुझे ऑनलाइन पेमेंट करी तो वो पैसा मेरे बैंक में था, उस पैसे पे पूरा मेरा हक था कि उस पैसे को मुझे कैसे यूज करना है। वो पैसा मेरे बुरे वक्त के लिए भी था मेरे पास, और जब मुझे इस काम को थोड़ा बड़ा करना था, मेरे पास पूंजी नहीं थी, तो मुझे उसे एक पूंजी की तरह भी यूज करने में मुझे उससे सहायता मिली। और उस पैसे को कैसे खर्च करना वो डिसीजन मेरा था। सबसे ज्यादा मुझे उसमें यह था कि इसका मुझे हिसाब नहीं देना, ये मेरा है और इसे कैसे खर्च करना ये मैं ही डिसाइड करूंगी।
We've been able to change mindset, and COVID really helped, because after COVID, everybody understood that digital is here to stay. It's no longer a nice to have, it's a must have, right? We're seeing more women choosing to study advanced technologies and choosing to study computer science. So we've broken that stereotype that it's a male or boys club, that women can find their spaces and find their voices. We're seeing more freelancing and remote work. We're seeing more jobs in tech and tech-enabled industries that are done by women. We are seeing changes in career and promotion. Women having access to more information to make better decisions about their family, their health, and education. We're seeing more women starting to use digital and social media. And I love what one of the speakers said, how she wants to take her business online. And we're seeing more women opting for that. We're also seeing more women using tools like WhatsApp Business, Instagram and Telegram that we're training them on, and using mobile money. So that's where you have the nice intersection of digital and financial inclusion.
Care economy, unlike in the OECD countries, definitely in the G7, where a lot of the activities of the care economy is marketable activity, right? So it finds its value in the economic sphere because you have a dollar value to it, there's a marketable, it's a transaction. So it finds its way into the GDP measurements. In most of the global south, definitely we can talk about India, a lot of the care, majority of care is underwater in the sense it's informal, it's in the household. It is non-marketable. And because it is non-marketable activity, it is therefore not valued, it is discounted.
The private sector is going to see a mushrooming of care. And you do require a regulatory oversight. And our request to the chair is that it should not become an Inspector Raj kind of regulatory. It must be an independent, autonomous body consisting of child experts so they know what kind of minimum standards to set up. The final thing is that even if the government does bring in this infrastructure and support services, will things change? And my last comment is that things are likely to change unless mindsets change.
Implement the national program for healthcare in full by 2030 in all districts of this country. Implement a universal pension for all older persons, and implement the NCD program. The government also launched the NCD program, but it is not working in many districts. Can we put this in place? Because unless you can give a single tablet of hypertensive tablet, you will not be able to treat blood pressure. And without a sugar tablet, you will not be able to treat diabetes. So on and so forth. So all vulnerable older persons need to be looked at because we have declining care support and we have zero social security in the country. So unless we can get a social security in place, we will not be able to.
What does it mean then to have this discussion or these discussions in plural at the G20 level, right? What it means to connect these very valid questions and solutions and policy suggestions to the international level, and what can a space like the G20 help us further these kind of, or universalizing these recommendations?
Lead to a nurturing, people-based economy. which is also environment friendly. And we have a request that please take it to the G20 leaders and please ensure that it becomes part of the G20 community.
Advancing gender equality, women's empowerment is the single greatest multiplier that we have in our tool set that provides the greatest return on investment in terms of development approaches. And that's to achieve the aspirations of all of society, of women and men, of girls and boys, our national aspirations. The UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, really means it when he says that gender equality is the unfinished business of our time. And it links to all of the other issues, our ability to address all of the other issues across the entire spectrum of the Sustainable Development Goals. Lastly, I think this is an unusual moment in time, and I couldn't think of a better place for us to be having this conversation and a better moment to be having this conversation than right here in India. As the Secretary General of the UN, Antonio Guterres, said in Mumbai when he was here visiting a few months back, India is it's our greatest hope. India will be the make it or break it country in achieving the 2030 agenda. It's quite simple. We estimate upwards of almost half of some global targets are here in India to be met.
We have moved from women's development to women-led development. I think that is important not only from the point of view of our meeting our national objectives, but also from the point of view of international commitments, including the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So, and of course, it is no coincidence that among our priorities as part of our G20 presidency, women's-led development is a very important segment.